Good morning, Nikolay. I
Good morning,
hope
Grace.
I hope you enjoyed yesterday evening
Absolutely.
in Malta. It's your first time here, correct?
First time at Malta and first time here at MFSA, so absolutely
We're
amazed to be
very
here.
pleased to have you. This is the first podcast of the Financial Supervisors Academy, which we set up in 2020 in order to train our staff on different approaches in financial supervision. And today we're going to be speaking about the future of financial regulation and supervision, focusing primarily on securities regulation and the role of ESMA. You've been with ESMA for the last 10 years now, Nikolay.
Absolutely. I started
And how
2013.
has your experience been so far?
We could say that it was very closely linked to also the growth of ESMA. ESMA, when I started, we were around 80 people, and I still came 2 years after the authorities was set up as a result of the De La Rosière report, if you remember, which created the three European supervisory authorities: one for banking, one for insurance, ESMA for securities and markets, and then of course the SRB as part of European System for Financial Supervision. And it has been an amazing trip, and I hope to continue be part of that trip. In short, ESMA, when I started, I was part of the team setting up the second supervisory mandate for ESMA, which was trade repositories. Now we have more than a handful of supervisory mandates. ESMA is a reference on single rulebook in writing regulation, and of course, as you know, also has done a lot on supervisory convergence. So the authorities has grown a lot. Now we are more than 320 people working at ESMA. So indeed, also size-wise, you have seen it was more than 4 times bigger, with of course a lot of outreach and a lot of work done. And I'm sure that we are going to be discussing today in the podcast many more of those interesting topics, which hopefully are going to be also interesting for you and the audience.
And you're heading one of the teams in ESMA in the field of data, correct?
That's correct.
So what does your team do at the moment?
So we have also following also the change of our management every 5 years. There is a new possibility to have new director. Of course, the previous ones they got both renewed. But however, in 2021 we had a new ED, and then we have also prepared for the future. We are going to be discussing today also part of the ESMA strategy 2023-2028. But in particular, my field is I'm leading the team on monitoring and intelligence, and we have several quite important tasks in the field of data, particularly in enhancing the quality and the use of the data, ensuring that both supervisors, regulators, and as such, then the industry as a whole could benefit for better quality of the data, making better use of it, and of course using it to enhance our policy making, to enhance our monitoring of markets, to enhance our supervision, and so on and so forth.
Very good. And we'll discuss later on more data-driven supervision and what
Absolutely.
ESMA is doing at the moment with respect to data-driven supervision. In terms of, for the benefit of our audience, how is ESMA structured? How's decision making? How does it takes place in ESMA? In which fora and for which type of decisions?
So ESMA has is structured. ESMA has a board. You're part of the board of supervisors, which is our, let's say, highest governance body. We have where each of the 27 member states is represented, and then we have observers from the other European supervisory authorities, and of course from the EA countries, and as you can imagine, also from the European Commission. We have also management board where decisions about functioning and the organization of the authority are being taken. The management board is a reduced size of the board of supervisors, and indeed it's in charge of particularly on the looking to the how the budget is approved, organization, etc. And then we have the structure of the standing committees. Standing committees are basically the part where the technical expertise, but also strategical expertise from national competent authority is is coming. It's where the decisions, the discussions are taken on the different topics. We have a standing committee on investor protection. We have standing committee on data. We have standing committee on supervision, and so on and so forth. So the different areas which are decided by the board to be also strategic areas, we have a standing committee there, which means a permanent structure. Under those standing committees, we have working groups or task forces depending on the project. All this structure is either led by ESMA staff or by NCA staff. We have quite a good mix on that one. And of course, there is an important work, let's say technical work, which happens at ESMA by those 320 people that I was mentioning to you in the field of steering the discussions, creating the proposals, etc. This has been an important step forward on the side of ESMA compared to when it started. Originally, it was only the predecessor of ESMA, the Committee of European Securities Regulators, was a body which was providing more advice to the Commission, writing some guidance, etc., to the market, but never to the extent that we are doing it now. Now, ESMA staff, of course, with having in mind all the governance structure that we have set, but we're in charge of supervision. We write technical standards, which then become law after they're approved by the European Commission and the co-legislators. But still, there is a lot happening there, and indeed, it's that important interaction between national competent authorities participating in each of the structures or substructures and ESMA staff, which is guiding the policy, supervision, and supervisory convergence in the European Union in the area of securities and markets.
There is the criticism of ESMA. I mean, you mentioned technical standards, guidelines, opinions. That sort of it's the ruler of capital markets in Europe. However, it's detached from the national competent authorities and what's happening within the markets. Does ESMA consult whenever there is a new set of laws, guidelines, and how does it take into account the feedback which is being given by the industry?
ESMA has been a very productive authority, let's put it like this, and we are producing on a yearly basis hundreds of standards, guidelines, and other tools which we can produce. In all the cases, ESMA is mandated to consult. It is impossible that we can prepare a proposal to the European Commission which is not being consulted. Of course, you can imagine that it is because also of this productivity of ESMA, because of the way in which we are structured, not everyone can be, of course, made happy. So, of course, there are going to be people who believe that their interests have not been correctly accounted. But in addition to all the, let's say, the consultations, which actually ESMA has also dedicated space on our webpage where people could see easily which are the relevant proposals, be it a consultation on a technical standard, be in a consultation on a guidelines, be in a discussion paper, call for evidence. Sometimes even our decisions, our thoughts require much more input from the market. We go there for call for evidence. We expect and we eagerly want input from the market.
You
it's
also
not always
organize
the case.
open hearings.
We also organize open hearings where everyone actually can face us directly. We have done a couple of them with you, and indeed those open hearings are also extremely good opportunity for the market to come to us. So, in a nutshell, just to conclude on that point, we are aware that not always everyone is going to be happy, but that's not the function of a supervisor. The function of the supervisor is, after consulting the market, after having the views of the 27 competent authority, because let's not forget, whenever we draft technical standards, guidelines, always there is at least one member per each member state who is part of the being a working group, technical standard, standing committee, and then at the end, ultimately the board of supervisors who can have a say and objective something is not in alignment with market structure at home, etc. But let's also not forget one important thing. We are not writing laws. We are not creating guidance for each individual member state. We are creating it for the union. We are creating single, harmonized way
For the purpose of the internal market.
For the purpose of the internal market, we are creating a single rule book, i.e. a single set of rules which is applicable across the board. Then we have some other tools to ensure that this is being compliant, so that wherever in Europe a company wants to set up and to provide financial services, the company is subject to the same rules, and also the investors, the participants into those companies, into the funds, etc., are subject to the same rules, and they have the same protections. So that's where we do need to also be careful. ESMA and the rest of the European authorities are mindful of the national differences, but we are also mindful that we are creating something bigger, which is the European Union and the internal market.
And the internal market, very good. Recently, ESMA celebrated its 10th anniversary and has also published its strategic vision for the coming 5 years. What are the main pillars of the strategic vision of ESMA for the coming 5 years?
So, as we mentioned, there has been, of course, the regular cycle in which also the senior management of ESMA is being, of course, assessed, and then, if needed, renew it. But in this case, there was no more possibility for renewal. So we have a new chair who was our previous executive director and a new executive director. So the ESMA strategy for the next 5 years is, we could call it a very nice symbiosis between all the experience of the last 10 years, where, as we mentioned, ESMA was set up as a European supervisory authority. It's the biggest of the three supervisory authorities, is the only one who has direct supervisory mandates on the market, and the one which we can say indeed it's a leader in the field of data. The future of ESMA is very much leveraging on that one, but also on the challenges that we know that we are going to be facing. So from that perspective, what is relevant for us? Financial stability and efficient markets. This is also part of our mission. But this is it's an important area where we want to focus our efforts, continue focusing there. Investor protection. Many new products are coming. There is the crypto, there are all the sustainability products, which are being provided very easily. Sometimes people with their mobile phone can enter into a transaction. Some people can be scammed, etc. So there is an important element of investor protection. Strengthening supervision across the European Union. As we mentioned, having a harmonized regulatory framework, it's not sufficient. We need to have consistent convergent supervision, and also we need to ensure that the entities that are supervised by ESMA are supervised in the best way possible. So this is the third pillar, the enhanced supervision at European and national level. And then, in addition to those three main pillars, which are somehow more vertical, they focus on certain areas of the market. We have two, which we would call transversal ones. One focused on sustainability. The climate, we are seeing that it's not the same as it was 10 or 20 years ago. People are very mindful, and there is a lot of effort put also on the sustainability side. A lot on the sustainability. It's coming of what happens in the society as part of efforts to ensure sustainability of the growth, sustainability of the economy, etc. It's coming to the capital market. So it's important to ensure that whatever happens there has a robust framework, leveraging from also experience from the past. And the last transversal element of the strategy is the technological innovation and data. I would say probably the one which is closer to my daily work, right? I would not say closer to my heart, because all of them are very close to my heart, but indeed this is very close to my daily work. And indeed, they're recognizing that all the opportunities that technological innovation is bringing to us, but also knowing what are the challenges of technological innovation. We mentioned the crypto, but we have a lot of opportunities both on the DLT pilot. We have a lot of opportunities with ensuring the resilience of the companies through DORA. We have a lot of opportunities on writing regulation in a better way through machine readable and executable reporting. We have important opportunities in using the data, the area where I'm working. using artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques to make better use of the data, using big data cloud or cloud solutions to ensure that we can process much more data. All this is to say that these 5 areas on which ESMA and 5 strategic priorities for ESMA for the next 5 years, they're going to be shaping our work. For sure, they're going to be our guiding principles. We are going to be, of course, supporting those, as we were mentioning before, through our work on a single rulebook, creating and enhancing the regulatory framework across the union. The more new products are coming, the more innovations are coming, the more we need to adapt the regulatory framework to it. As you were saying, we need to ensure that the regulation goes with the pace of society. We can never be ahead of it, but to the extent that our efforts can support also this evolution, I think we're in the right place for that.
The industry is developing, as you're saying, it's becoming more technological, more digital. We can't continue supervising the same way we were supervising 20 years ago. SupTech is developing. Can you give a concrete example of, in the area of capital markets, how SupTech is developing and how it is impacting positively supervision, and how can ESMA become sort of a hub to provide these tools also to national competent authorities? So in other words, rather than having 27 different NCAs investing in technology, having a pool of funds which is used for a bigger project at European level, which will support supervision at national level.
Well, Chris, SupTech has been also very close to our heart, right? We have been doing a lot on the Data Standing Committee in the area of SupTech, and we have done several developments. You're absolutely right. We cannot supervise today, and for sure tomorrow not the same way as we were supervising even 5 years ago. Very, very clear example from our life at ESMA, where, for instance, as I told you, I have been very closely working in the supervision of trade repositories. 10 years ago, of course, we didn't have the trade repositories, but 5 years ago, the intensity in which we would supervise them would be completely different from now. Why? Also because we didn't have all the relevant technological tools to do so. So nowadays, as I was mentioning, we at ESMA, we have set up a cloud solution, big data platform, which allows us to perform many more calculations, many more supervisory processes on the data. But this is only one element. This is the implementation of it. How the SupTech has evolved on our side and where is to go. One of the important parts of the SupTech is to say what it is. It's supervisory technology, i.e. using new technologies for the purposes of supporting supervisory mandates. What have we done there? Of course, there is an important way of part of interaction. So we need to decide what do we want to do, what is going to be our approach. Very clear examples of that have been, for instance, the moments where we have agreed commonly for a framework with the competent authorities on the supervision of data under certain reporting regimes, like the derivatives reporting under EMIR, the European Market Infrastructure Regulation. There, we have decided, as we have certain tolerance to some issues in the market, but above certain threshold, which we have fixed, we are not anymore tolerant. So we all agree that we are going to act in that case. Then we decide how we are going to monitor. We create indicators, dashboards, and as a result, once ESMA performs central calculations, we distribute results and everyone has to do the homework because we know this is a joint effort and has to be done. So this is only one example, but how the future would look like. Indeed, also with you, we have done several attempts, and I think all of them have been an important learning process for us, and this is also in line with what is the future. One of the important parts of the future engagement and interaction between ESMA and NCAs would be to indeed use these solutions, this big data platform, to share information among ourselves, to have joint analytical possibilities. We know that we are not going to be the first one on that field. European Central Bank has such capabilities for quite some time, but there is also the important difference in size. So from that perspective, on the capital market side, indeed, ESMA is going to be a breakthrough authority, and of course also with the coordination with the NCAs. Definitely, there is an important part there on sharing, using centralized analytics, and then distributing those results, cooperating with the authorities, and ensuring that the authorities who are on the field, who know the market participants, are able to quickly engage. So that's one of the aspects on Data Hub. But then we have more. You also, because you mentioned the Data Hub, you know that ESMA is also moving into quite vested into a project called ESAP, where there is going to be an important a piece of public information made available centrally.
And what is the benefit of ESAP for the industry, for the general public? So how will it support them in making their own decisions?
ESAP is going to be a central point for providing information to investors, informations about the prospectuses of the company, wherever it's the company is registered in the union, and issuing their financial statements. ESAP is going to be providing information about the volumes of transactions in derivatives, in securities financing. ESAP is going to be a central place for investors, retail investors in particular, because you can imagine that the more sophisticated ones already have access to also more sophisticated tools which are needed for them to have access to such information. This is essential for the Capital Markets Union. This is information which is essential for the investors to feel also closer to the market.
So will it encourage in any way cross-border investments? Because one of the things that Capital Markets Union is all about is encouraging investors to make investments cross-borders.
Absolutely. This is one of the objectives. And we know that in that aspect, we are still quite far away from the US. US is our reference in capital markets. We know that there is a long way to go there. We are leaders in some other fields. I would say on the subtech, data supervision, etc., we are quite advanced. But on the side of the capital markets and the access by investors to capital markets, we do need to do more. Similarly, with the IFMD and UCITS, i.e., the alternative investments funds, the UCITS, these are typical vehicles also for retail investors to put their savings, to put their money to grow for their retirement, but then this money is used in for the capital markets, right? So there we also expect that with the recent review of those two legislative texts, there is going to be another push to further support and foster the Capital Markets Union. Absolutely.
Very good. We were mentioning data. Recently, ESMA published its data strategy. What are the main pillars of the data strategy?
We have included the data strategy. It's part of the ESMA strategy, right? The data strategy is one of the vehicles to deliver on the ESMA strategy. It has several more tangible objectives, much closer to the work that we are performing. First one, and we already referred to it a couple of minutes ago, is becoming a data hub, i.e. be a central place for solutions for the supervisors, but be data hub also, which then affords to publish information in general for the public, for the investors, for the market participants, for them to be able to use it, to integrate it in the processes. There, very closely linked to that one, is ensure that we have thought leadership on the data policy side and data standards. When we generate information, or request actually the market to generate information, because we are not the ones who generate it, we generate the standards for the information. These standards, they are compatible, they are harmonized across the board. Use of the LEI, use of ISIN, use of, LEI, legal entity identifier, use of ICE in the instrument, the identifier for securities, the use of a unique product identifier, the UPI. All these elements have been critical up to now to ensure, but it's not the only thing. We need to ensure the thought leadership also on the side of on the standards, the way in which the information is being reported and published, so that it can be easily consumed. Having such standardization also supports our data-driven policy much more. Data-driven supervision and data-driven policy, i.e. ensuring that the data is incorporated in our decision-making on an ongoing basis. It's not an ad hoc effort. Anytime that at ESMA we need to make a decision, it is being supported with data. Anytime that we need to make a decision for the European Union, not only internally, it is supported by data. Whenever we need to write a policy, there is data which is incorporated to it. There is data which is ensuring that whatever we are proposing, would it be a clearing threshold? Would it be an exemption? Would it be a new requirement? This is supported by the data.
That's excellent. And how are you seeing the sort of, there's the strategy, main strategy, there's the data strategy. If you had to look at the future beyond these strategies, how are you seeing the capital markets of Europe developing, and how are you seeing supervision developing?
So,
if you had to make 3 predictions.
So let's indeed first underline the ESMA strategy and the data strategy. They work hand in hand. They are the data strategy. It's as we mentioned, very particular area. ESMA has also a strategy on the sustainability, etc. So indeed, this is part of all this joint effort to ensure that we are able to deliver. That the strategy does not remain only as a vision for the future, but it's actionable. And from that perspective, one of the important aspects that we are having at ESMA, as you also mentioned, is the SupTech. Definitely leveraging a lot on the SupTech, leveraging a lot on the opportunities that the SupTech is giving, sharing the information between authorities. I think we didn't mention it before, but this is another critical element. It's not only the analytics data, but also ensuring that authorities can easily share information among themselves. They can act. We don't have those barriers. You remember, you were reminding us before about the cross-border investment. Of course, this is going to be something relevant. But how also the future is going to look like. And this of course, my thoughts are informed from what I'm seeing, what we are discussing, etc. But this is, of course, more my personal thoughts. So just also to have a bit of a caveat there.
I'm asking for your personal view. So.
Exactly. So on that
and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but from your experience and from what you're seeing.
The future, how it's going to be for me, digital. It's going to be very closely linked to society developments, and the way in which the society evolves. The future is going to be also much more on sharing, much more the interaction between the market participants, the authorities, the investors. It's going to be much more enhanced. We are already seeing that even social media are being part of some of those elements. But why it's going to be digital? Particularly on the side of what I'm seeing and the area of data, there is an important effort to use new technologies. We're mentioning artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence helps us a lot. We have had another supervisory project on using artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, it's not an objective, it's a tool, but incorporating in our daily work, it's going to be something which would bring greater benefits. And of course, we are doing now those pilots at ESMA, but the intention is, as soon as we have tested those, of course, to share that experience also with the competent authorities. What is the digital part of the future entailing too? I mentioned in the beginning machine readable and executable reporting. This is another important element for us. Why? Because it would mean that legal text can be unequivocally understood by anyone, i.e. legal text would not need anymore an army of consultants, lawyers to interpret what the regulation was meaning. No, machine readable and executable reporting would mean that the regulation is written with a legal text, but which is transformed into a code or directly in a code. We
So,
still
for
don't know how
example, a
it is.
prospectus, how would a prospectus be reviewed in such an environment?
This is the a third important element, the natural language processing. Already on that one, we have done also a pilot project, but there is more to be done there. The text processing and the processing of natural languages is an important step also there, ensuring that the language which is used there, which is sometimes it's legal, sometimes it's more of a plain text. It's well understood. But already there, Chris, I would remind that we have it's called inline XBRL, which is a format where certain words have to be used and follow certain structure, where indeed then if this text is received by a tool which can read it, it can easily extract those words. But this is only one thing. Also in the field of the financial information, for quite some time, an important element has been what is the sentiment that is coming. For us, for those of us who have some experience on the financial markets, we know that it's not what is it today, but what are our expectations for the future. And our expectation for the future even guide prices of companies. It's not what the actual value is now. In most of the cases, what our expectation for the future. And in that case, also the natural language processing should be helping on the digital side to ensure that investors, but also supervisors, can easily spot things which are critical, essential. Natural language processing, it's also critical for us, and we indeed investing on that area a lot, also because of all the disclosures on sustainability. As we mentioned, sustainability is entering quite importantly into the financial markets. However, there is, and also our chair has recently made several statements in that regard. We do need to go to a state of further standardization of what is being published, what is being disclosed, how this has to be understood, and so on and so forth. So on that field, definitely on the digital part, we have a lot, and a lot has to be done. And I'm sure that the way in which also we're going to be doing regulation and supervision in 5 or 10 years, it's going to be completely different from what we're doing today. Then socially connected. We have been discussing about the crypto. We are discussing about the DORA and the cloud. Actually, on DORA, one important element that we need to also mention is that it has an important link with the way in which currently our financial system is organized. There is an important reliance on third-party service providers, normally IT systems. But this is where the data is. This is where the actual knowledge, actual information stands. We have an important reliance in the EU on such providers. Therefore, there is an important work to be done to ensure that we also have our independence, and also that the entities can ensure that the data and the way in which data is managed by their providers is in a good shape.
And that's why we're now supervising them, correct?
ESMA is going to be ESMA, and the other two ESAs would become the overseers, and depending on the entities, they're going to be different overseers in the context of DORA, for the critical third-party providers. Exactly. So it's not a full supervisory function. For instance, when you are a supervisor, as you know, you can basically mandate sometimes to the entity, you need to stop doing that. If they don't want to, we would go to enforcement, right? But in the case of oversight, still it's going to be we understand, a good first step to indeed ensure certain level of convergence there.
Very good. And one last question. You mentioned a lot in terms of the future for supervisors and how supervision is going to develop. In terms of investors, what are you saying for the future in terms of how all these developments will benefit investors, which is ultimately our mandate?
Okay, let's take it by pieces. our mandate is to protect the investors and to foster the capital markets union, right? So if we start from that point in time, we have to underline several things. First, having a robust capital markets union, as we mentioned, it's positive for investors. It would mean that an investor in Malta is going to be subject to the same protections as an investor in Finland, Ireland, Bulgaria, which is my home country, Spain, which is one of my adoption countries, or France. And this is critical. How also the future is going to be benefit the investors, as we were mentioning, having access to free of charge to information that would be published under ESAP is also critical for them to be able to make decisions. Not only that, ESMA is also considering as part of our data strategy whether other supervisory data can be published either in an anonymized way or then can be used by academia for studies, for research, to ensure that indeed also there is this connection. How also the future that we are making, the digital future, is going to benefit the investor. Imagine you are a Maltese company, and then there is in 8-9 months time from now, there is the EMIR Refit, the review of the derivatives reporting standards called EMIR Refit going live. How this is going to benefit you? Well, all that we have done, for instance, in the last years, preparing important documentation would support you. But if we're in this future life where we have machine readable and executable reporting, the entities would need simply to embed this code in their systems. And that's going to be one of the ultimate objectives. Once this is done, the reporting is going to flow. They are not going to be needing to go to, as we mentioned, consultant, lawyer, etc. This is going to be an important aspect. We forgot to mention one of them, the DOT pilot. This is another way to approaching that, i.e. the way forward, and that's where currently also on the supervisory side we are looking how this is evolving and assessing how this should go. Investors can invest directly on the blockchain, i.e. they can have transactions which are recorded on the blockchain, and that's it. And they would not have to do more. This could be another part of the future, i.e. whoever is mandated to supervise it, ESMA, national competent authorities, can have direct access to the DLT ledger, to the register of the ledger where the transactions are being recorded, and see the transaction. Would that be a benefit for the investors? Of course. So there are a lot of things that are about to happen, and having the paradigm in our mind of supervisors, in our mind of authorities, to protect the investors, to have a harmonized supervision across the EU, and to ensure the financial stability, because this is the third part of the piece. This is all going to be beneficial for the investors. Using the new technologies for those purposes definitely is going to render them benefits. Again, you are asking about the benefits, but I would like also to ring the bell on the potential challenges or risks. The cryptos, there is an important risk on that sphere. That's why also ESMA and the competent authorities are willing to further push on the MiCA. There is an important work going on there, and with the ultimate objective that whenever someone decides to invest in crypto, it's aware of all the risk that can come now. Currently, can this be done? Of course, we have also a lot of derivatives products which are directly linked to Bitcoin, for instance. Do we need to act? Well, we have seen with the data that the volumes have been increasing, and that was also one of the reasons for MiCA, and to ensure that indeed any investment also in the crypto space has to be correctly assessed, and the investors can be protected. So, to conclude on that one, I do think that the technological growth and the way in which we are seeing the supervision in the future is going to be 100% benefiting the investors, and it's going to make the investments safer. Most probably we're going to have new risks and new challenges, but we would face those when they come.
Welcome back, Nikolay. Had a short break.
Summer, it's coming to Malta.
No, summer is already here. My children
Absolutely.
are already going to the beach.
Oh my
Unfortunately, I
goodness.
haven't visited the beach yet. Hopefully, I'll
Oh,
do so this weekend.
the beach in Paris, it's not yet ready, but I'm sure that soon I'm going to be
You
also
normally
heading
go
there.
to swim in the sea, no?
Absolutely.
It doesn't look very nice, though. I mean,
Absolutely not now, but you know that the plans for the Olympic Games is that it's going to be ready for people to swim there. Currently, actually, some of the events which I'm following, like triathlon events, take place in some of the canals of Paris, which are done before that, cleaned a bit. That's the intention also with the Seine River. Let's see how it's going to be, but this is one of the big projects and flagships for the Olympic Games next year.
excellent. So it's going to be an exciting period in Paris. Very good.
Absolutely, we are looking forward all to escape from the city.
Yes. And hopefully don't organize any ESMA meetings in Paris during that period.
Absolutely, no. You know, it's going to be city. It's already quite at stretch at normal day. So absolutely, next year it's going to be very intense there. So definitely, we're going to be taking this into account for the future meetings.
Very good. To continue our discussion on the future of financial regulation and supervision, we touched upon already on the issue of data and data-driven supervision. Can you give us a highlight of the journey that ESMA has been through in order to create the existing framework for data, quality of data, but also to become a data hub?
Indeed, Chris, as you mentioned, it has been a journey. I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation when I started at ESMA. I started in the team setting up the supervision of trade repositories, and even though originally my sphere of expertise was not circumscribed to data, it immediately became clear that I do need to specialize there. But this goes more on the supervisory side. No, the ESMA journey on the data side has been quite a comprehensive one because we realized that the supervision cannot work without the policy hand in hand. So, as part of our journey, some time ago, 2014, we put in place the first data quality action plan. It was called the EMIR Data Quality Action Plan. And why we needed it? Because it was also the first time where ESMA as an authority was exposed to an unprecedented event, which was data for the first time was the same type of data was accessed by multiple authorities from market infrastructures. And the authorities had a lot of struggle. Why? They couldn't use the data. Why? Because the data was not in the same format, the names of the elements were different, etc. What did it mean? That everyone was providing, all the trade repositories were providing access to data to the authorities, so there was no problem there. But the authorities could not make use of it. Why? Because they couldn't understand it. They couldn't read it. They had to make important efforts to clean the data, structure it, etc. So from that perspective, ESMA, we quickly understood, and that's why we put in place the data quality action plan, which had several facets. It had the policy facet, standardization and harmonization of reporting requirements. It had the data access facet, standardization of data access requirements. As I mentioned, the formats were not yet there. Even now, we are in 2024. This is going to be the first time when the derivatives reporting regime in Europe, it's going to be fully standardized end-to-end. It's going to be the same format and type of information is going to be reported all along the chain, from the market participants, from the entities that generate information, to market infrastructure, the trade repositories, and then being accessed by the authorities. Then there was a third important element in that process, which were the IT process. ESMA was also pioneering there and creating our hub for data exchange called Trace. This was another important element in this puzzle, i.e., to ensure and create those synergies for the competent authorities and also for the trade repositories. We created the hub where authorities could directly connect and download information, interact with the trade repositories, but through a single interface. They didn't need have 6, at the time 7 connections with the different trade repositories. And this greatly facilitated their work. And finally,
Yes.
one last point, and then back to you, was the data quality aspect, i.e. put in place a system originally at ESMA to monitor the quality of the information that the TRs provide, and then engage with the competent authorities in targeted interactions with the market participants, with the trade repositories as part of the review of the quality of the data, to ensure that all the relevant parties who were taking part of the process, because at the end, the trade repositories or the entities over which ESMA had direct supervisory mandate were only at the end of the chain, but at the front of the chain, the ones who were generating information were the market participants. So that's where NCAs had to come into place. And the data quality action plan in general was one amazing example of how the joint, well thought through convergent work between ESMA and competent authorities could render great benefits. And we have seen that as a result of that exercise, Europe has been on the forefront of the data supervision, forefront of data quality, and forefront of data use for supervisory data in the last 5 years.
EMIR peer review in 2019 was very enlightening in terms of what was happening with respect to data quality. What were the main points that came out from the EMIR peer review, and how did ESMA tackle those issues?
Indeed, the peer review in 2019 was had a, let's say, not unexpected findings. Let's put it like this. It was clear that the way in which the supervision of data across Europe was happening was not.
When we say supervision of data, we're referring to supervision of data quality.
It's supervision of data
so
quality.
The interaction between the competent authority, so the financial supervisor, and the reporting entity.
Yeah.
And the quality of the information which the reporting entity is submitting to trade repositories.
Indeed, and not only that, but there was not only this part of the interaction, but there was the whole missing element of first monitoring the quality of data in-house. Authorities had at the time very low level of maturity on their data processes. The data was only collected from time to time and checked in a very ad hoc manner. There was no systematic way of dealing with that one. In addition to that one, you can consider, of course, as you were mentioning, the interaction, etc. The supervision of data, it's not only about the quality of it. The quality is only one aspect of it. Where we indeed also saw there that there was an important failure is that basically then this data was not used in any of the processes across the authority. And this was another
so we were
big
gathering the data, but we were not using it effectively.
And this per se, it's something which is not positive, because as a chief of the Maltese authority, I'm sure that you hear every day entities complaining about the reporting burden. So definitely this was also unfair. We had created costs for the market participants.
So we needed to use that data
we
in a
had
better
to
way.
use it, and that was another of the important outcomes of the peer review. Making further use of the data. So between the two things that, as you mentioned, came as a result of the peer review, what did we do afterwards? We saw that there is an important opportunity to step up there, and this happened in EMIR, but we have had similar experiences in other reporting
areas. Yes.
So EMIR, we are using it simply as an example, but once this happened in EMIR, what did we do? We saw that the data quality action plan did a lot good on the data policy side and on the IT side, but most probably on the data supervision, there was still room for improvement. And this was evidenced by the peer review. So afterwards, we enhanced it and included the quantitative element in the data quality action plan and in the data quality work in general, where we created data quality indicators, which are calculated across Europe in the same way. We have shared with all the national competent authorities the code, it's called pseudocode, which basically it's an explanation how you need to code the requirements in your system, independent on the way in which you store the data, but the way in which you have to code the analytics, generate the same code, and be able to benchmark yourself. This is extremely helpful, and most of the authorities we know actively do that. We receive a lot of feedback also from them because this is iterative process, right? The data quality indicators we agreed with them, but again, we need always the feedback from the authorities, and we, as a regulatory community, have agreed on what is our tolerance level, and this was another important element which previously we didn't have. So we have seen that we have agreed that at this stage, the position which we are, our tolerance level is 5% for certain issues or 10% for some others. If there is one of the indicators go beyond those, definitely we need to act, and we need to act as a community. The issue, it's never or almost never linked to a single jurisdiction. There are always several jurisdictions. But what we have also seen, and this was also evidenced in the peer review, was that there were a lot of targeted actions missing. There was a lot of the interactions that we were doing as part of the previous data activities were more linked to interacting once per year with a given entity. The new framework also put a lot of emphasis on targeted interactions and outcome focused, i.e. achieve an outcome in the most efficient way, targeting the most important counterparties in a jurisdiction. Previous exercises, some we would have not necessarily the most important market players covered. So this also evidence that we as authorities agreed on common rules among ourselves. This was the journey up to now. What is the journey looking towards the future?
But before that, looking at the journey for the future, we had a lot of discussions on data-driven supervision and how we can use data for supervision and how the national competent authorities are supervising data and data quality during the ESMA DSC meetings. From these meetings, my impression was that different NCAs were all sort of undertaking a journey towards using better data, but it was rather fragmented in the sense everyone was at different levels. Is there something which perhaps we can do in the future within ESMA in order to bring all NCAs at a convergent level of supervision in this field, and also to perhaps try to achieve convergence in the field of enforcement as well? Because again, even in enforcement, we were seeing different approaches in different member states. And we had some very interesting examples being explained and presented during the ESMA DSC meetings. However, again, with different approaches by different member states. Now, initiating the debate was sort of the first step towards trying to achieve convergence, sort of by achieving mutual learning, mutual understanding. However, what can be done in the future in order to achieve a higher level of convergence in this area, given its importance for the future of financial supervision?
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. There are several elements, and I think we have been touching them along this conversation. Of course, convergence on the enforcement side is critical too. I think everyone would agree there. And as a matter of fact, we have seen not many enforcement actions, direct enforcement actions, in the course of the last 10 years. Actually, if we look at those, we have had several, let's say, very ad hoc ones in a single jurisdiction. Then the UK usually in the past, before Brexit, they also had some of them. But in general, authorities have been using softer enforcement tools than actual fines and penalties to entities. And indeed, I would agree with you. And this is also part of the ESMA strategy, to ensure further enhancement and further convergence on the enforcement side, to ensure that we as a community of authorities can achieve the outcomes also in a convergent way. But coming back to the first part of your question, which was about the SupTech, there is and we are recognizing an important element of and this is going to be part of our continuous journey towards a better quality of the data in using the new technologies. Using ESMA has already published it. We plan in the course of the coming months to open the use of our platform to other authorities. But not only that, we are not going to be only opening the platform, but also our objectives are to start sharing code, start sharing analytics approach, creating discussions with the authorities on also the experiences. As you mentioned, we have had several discussions, and we continue having those discussions now at the DSC, where authorities are bringing use cases where they're using also new technologies. This is informative for everyone. As you say, everyone is doing something. We are in different stages of our journey, but also the experiences are extremely enriching. So from that perspective, indeed, ESMA is placed as the best place for those experiences to be shared, for those new approaches to be discussed, and then come up with a joint one, come up with something which is a common approach at the EU level, how to use technology to better support our supervisory decisions, to better support our supervisory work, and to ensure that the data that we use tomorrow is better than the data that we have been using today, to ensure that our systems are also better prepared and can incorporate the data in this process automatically. And by that, what we also are going to achieve, having a better, using the SupTech, having better supervision of the data, it's going to, by definition, create a safer environment, safer marketplace. It's going to have positive effects on financial stability. It's going to reduce costs for market participants. Because now, another important element that we have had, and sorry to bring it here to the discussion, has been the continuous request for more data. You know that you remember that we have been in this wave of continuous new requirements, adding and piling on the data side. And what has happened there? Well, at some point in time, also the European Commission said, "Okay, let's put the brake on it. Let's see where we stand." And they have also the strategy, the supervisory data strategy, which the European Commission published, which goes into that direction. We need to simplify the reporting requirements and ensure as much as possible reusing and sharing data. If a data is reported under a given regime, then we should use it. We should not ask the same information 2, 3, 5 times.
5 times, exactly.
Exactly. So that's
we
where
need
the
to be more proportionate on our approach.
We have to be more proportionate, and that's where also the SupTech is going to play an important role. By being able to use the new technologies and to integrate data there, this is going to have tremendous effects on our efficiency in performing our supervisory tasks.
Again,
absolutely.
In what way will ESMA facilitate the use of these technologies at national level? Again, the different NCAs are at different stages of their journey. In what way can we try to pool more the resources to get better outcomes with respect to the use of this technology?
100%. Setting up new projects, new data on an IT project at central place at ESMA level, of course, it's going to be the clearest way to reap the benefits of that. Bringing the experience.
The industry, we are supervising very large institutions. They are investing a lot in technology and the use of data. I mean, in order to be able to supervise them, we need to equally have a sort of a large pot of money to be able to invest.
Absolutely, that's right. That's right, Chris, and that's where we are. So we always go as regulatory communities. We always go with some baby steps at the start. So we are now in this phase where I think baby steps have gone through. We have more secure steps now. There are several projects currently undergoing of pooling resources from the authorities, ensuring a very collaborative way of working among authorities, because again, what one can do, it's incomparable with what 27 or 28 can do. It's incomparable. And that's where ESMA is having this central point, leading on those new innovative data and IT projects is going to play a critical role. And there we also expect and as we have been doing up to now, to get further idea by the NCAs, but also challenges, because also on that one, an important part is to understand what are the challenges now. And we have heard already in the past, challenges, as you mentioned, industry invests a lot of money. We don't have those resources. So that's why we need to use in a very smart way, our resources, the resources of all the regulatory community, and to put them in the best interest of all of us. Absolutely.
Excellent. You were mentioning before the future of the journey. So where is ESMA going? And I interrupted you. What are your views in terms of the future?
Of the evolution of data, ESMA and the NCAs. We see definitely much more technological, a lot of very data driven. The way in which know that we are doing supervision nowadays is going to evolve even more. One of the objectives is to have common dashboards among us and the competent authorities, have master data, i.e. everyone can understand exactly in the same way. This is going to render another important benefits. And then cooperating on joint platforms, working more together. Up to now, we have been working a lot together, but more on the policy side, joining forces, discussing, agreeing on documents. The future is to work much more together on common platforms and making them work in our benefit.
Nikolay, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you here at MFSA for this Financial Supervisory Academy podcast. And I look forward to continue working and collaborating with you in the future at the level of ESMA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. Have a good day.